Hi everyone, it's Linda from LyndaCreates, and I am here to show you how to make a embroidered project, handmade embroidered project out of a stamp. We all know and love our stamps, so why not use them to make an embroidery project? So you can see here is a stamp that I used. I stamped it onto my canvas bag using just standard dye ink, and then I chose my embroidery floss colors, which I'll put in the description, and just started stitching. So take a look at that and let's go ahead and get started. So here's what I'm going to need to make this DIY handmade project. I'm starting with my Wonderful World stamps from iCrafter, and I'm going to work with this globe with flowers. I have a canvas bag which is about 7 3/4 by 6 inches roughly, and it's just a nice rough canvas bag that I picked up at a craft store. I have a needle, sewing needle, embroidery needle. I have a small pair of scissors. I have DMC Embroidery Floss. I selected some colors and I will list them in the description. And I'm using Lawn Fawn Fundamentals. They're dye ink in Hippo, which is a darkish gray. And I'm using 2 of these stamp blocks. And the reason I need 2 is because you can see the edges are a little higher here, so I'm going to put 1 block inside, and so when I stamp on it, it will have something to stamp against. So these are my 2 blocks that I'm using. And on my canvas bag, just something to be aware of is that I tend to open my bags left to right, so I'm assuming that this is going to be my front as opposed to this way where right to left is a little more awkward for me. So I'm going to start it with that way. Just something to think about when you're working. And the reason you need 2 blocks is so that you have one to put inside to give you a nice surface to stamp against. So there we have it stamped, and now we can start stitching. And if you do little bits of areas that aren't perfect, you can stitch over it and hide most of the problems there, but you just want to make sure and see all the edges. So here's a trick on how to thread the needle. When you have the end of it, you pinch it between your thumb and your forefinger, and you slide it into the eye of the needle. There you go. Now my other recommendation, of course, is a needle threader, but I didn't have one here. My second trick is to tie the knot at the end of it. Now there's ways of stitching that you can hide the knot, but because it's going to be on the inside, I'm just going to tie a regular knot. So here's how I learned it. You wet your finger, you put it between your thumb and your forefinger, the end of it, you wrap it around once, and then you roll it. And then you grab it with your fingernail and you pull it down, and now you have kind of a, depending on how many times you wound it around your finger, will determine how large that knot will be. I did a fairly big one there. So anyway, there's 2 tricks on starting the embroidery. as I was working along, I decided I wanted to go back to the lightest color and start working or keep working with that. And what I decided to do was that the lightest color, I'm going to try to do it in the largest area of each flower and then go down to the darkest color in the center. I decided to go in with 2 shades of green because the leaves have highlights as well. So here's a little hint as to separating these when you're trying to get the separate strands. I always split it on one side and straighten out because it'll start curling up and knotting, or tangling I should say, on the other end, as you can see. So you just kind of keep straightening it out from both sides as you go. Or you can put a finger through the center there, but it's starting to get tangled, as you can see here. So you just want to keep that straightened out. And when you get fairly short, you could just separate it that way. So So I finished the little bits of light green that I stitched on there. And now I'm going to the darker green to do the bottom halves of the leaves. And as you pull these stitches through, because we're not using a hoop, you don't want to pull them too tight. You don't want to buckle or cause the fabric to bend. You want it to lay flat. Another trick is you could shorten the tail, but also if your floss starts to twirl, you just turn it. I always turn it counterclockwise. I don't know why, if everybody has the same directional pull of their stitches, but you just kind of twist it between your fingers. And again, don't want to pull too tight at that last tug. So I finished stitching the leaves, and now there are branches. Let me show you. There are little branches and buds that come out from there as well. So I'm going to stitch those, I think, in the lighter green. Now that I have the green all finished, let me show you here. I'm going to do a little bit of some French knots to add some little detail. And this is with the darkest color of floss, and the French knots are going to go on the ends of these stems. There's some here, some here, some here. And really the simple thing with French knots is you wrap it at least twice, depending, you could do more if you want a bigger French knot, and you put the needle back in exactly where it came out from, and you hold the wrapped part fairly snug. So you want to keep the wrap around the needle tight to the fabric, and then you pull it down until you get to the end. And that is a French knot, and they are a very nice little piece of detail that you can add to your work. So there I've added my French knots as accents onto the greenery. And now I'm going to start working on the globe itself. So for the globe, I have a kind of a medium warm gray, and I may do the edge of the globe in blue, maybe. I'm going to decide on that. I'm kind of going back and forth on that. I'll test it to see, but I know the stand, the globe stand, is going to be this warm gray. So I'm going to start with the base, and I'm just going to do, similar to these stitches, a satin stitch just to fill in that area, to give it a solid base to sit on. I'm going to start on this side. So there's the base, and now I'm going to start going up along that armature on the globe. So I finished the top and the bottom of the globe with the satin stitch. I want to start doing this armature here. So what I'm going to do is similar to what I did with the stems on these light green. I'm going to stitch, go beyond where I want to, and then come back in halfway in between. So basically what it'll give me is a nice full looking stitch, because I want it to look solid. And it works nicely on a curve. So you can see I'm coming in beyond it, and I'm coming up halfway. So that is about 1/8 of an inch, just going around. So I finished coming around this side with my stem stitch, and that's the same stitch I used for the stems of all things. So let me show you that a little closer. This is a really nice stitch to do on a curve. Okay, so I finished the bottom part of the stem. So now I'm going to start with the, I shouldn't call it a stem, the pole, opposite pole. So then I'm going to do the stem stitch and go back up. And I may need to do a third one to fill it in. We'll see what happens. So let's keep going. And I apologize, the sun keeps going in and out, so it gets a little bright. But I wanted to mention, look how pretty that stem stitch is turning out as you just keep going along. And there's nothing fancy about that stitch, it's just an even tension as you're stitching and just going along nice and slow. So here's the stand all completed, and I decided I am going to do the globe in this sort of a cornflower blue. Just thought it would be so pretty. Again, I apologize. Sunlight is coming in and out, so I'm trying to do what I can so it doesn't blow out the color. So I'm just starting with the earth edge, and it is in this real pretty cornflower blue. And I'm just going to do a running or a stem stitch around the edge again to outline it. So there's a finished piece. It was stamped onto a canvas bag, and just a couple of embroidery stitches. And let me bring it up here to show you. Super simple. You could do this with any stamp image that has open areas for stitching. You could also do the stem stitch if you want to an outline of something and then do satin stitches, or there's a whole bunch of different types of stitches you can do, embroidery stitches to fill in areas. But this is my Handmade Day project. So thanks so much for watching. This is Lynda of LyndaCreates, and please, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.